The morning of August 24th, 79 AD, began like any other in Pompeii. The sun rose over Mount Vesuvius, its slopes painted gold and green, and the city beneath it stirred to life. Merchants opened their stalls along the Via dell'Abbondanza. Bakers pulled loaves from stone ovens, their scent mingling with olive oil and wine. Children splashed water in the public fountains while men in togas debated politics in the forum. To the citizens of Pompeii, life was abundant and secure. The mountain looming above them was ancient, majestic, a guardian, not a threat. The vineyards on its flanks were heavy with grapes, the soil so fertile it seemed blessed by the gods themselves. At the Stabian baths, steam rose as wealthy patrons eased into warm pools, gossiping about the latest gladiator matches. In the brothels and taverns, laughter echoed. Beyond the city walls, farmers worked their fields, unaware that the land beneath their feet had been trembling for weeks. It started small, a jug rattling on a shelf, a faint shiver through the ground that made the mosaics hum. Pompeians had felt earthquakes before. They shrugged it off as the mountains sigh. But today, even the animals seemed uneasy. Dogs barked endlessly. Birds circled and vanished toward the sea. By mid-morning, a strange haze began to rise from the summit of Vesuvius. At first it looked like a cloud, white and thin, but soon it thickened, darkened, spreading upward in a pillar that twisted like a black tree. Some citizens pointed and laughed. Others crossed themselves or whispered prayers to Jupiter. In the forum, people gathered, shading their eyes from the bright sun as ash began to drift down, soft at first, like snow. Then came the roar, a deep, rolling thunder that didn't end. It built, growing louder until it became the sound of the earth itself breaking apart. The top of Mount Vesuvius exploded, launching rock and flame thousands of feet into the air. The sky turned gray, then black. At first came the stones, small, light pumice that clattered harmlessly on rooftops. Children ran to catch them, laughing, until the stones grew larger, heavier. Roof tiles shattered. Shutters banged in the wind. The air filled with choking dust that turned noon into twilight. People began to flee, some toward the harbor, clutching children and baskets of food, others toward the open fields beyond the city gates. The priests of Apollo ran into the streets, calling for calm, but their voices were drowned by the mountain's constant roar. In the house of the faun, a wealthy family gathered their jewelry and coins, trying to decide whether to run or hide. "It will pass," said the father. "The gods test us." But as the roof began to creak under the weight of falling pumice, his wife screamed and pulled him toward the door. By now, the city was blanketed in gray. The air was thick, the light dim and yellow. It was hard to breathe. People tore strips of cloth to cover their mouths. Those who stayed indoors were trapped as the ash piled higher, sealing doors and windows. Those who fled found the streets nearly impassable, knee-deep in pumice. From the harbor came cries. The sea had begun to pull back, exposing rocks and fish. Boats that tried to sail away were battered by falling debris. A merchant running toward the gates stopped to look back. Pompeii was disappearing. The elegant villas, the temples, the fountains, all fading into a storm of ash and fire. By late afternoon, the sun had vanished completely. The only light came from the lightning crackling within the volcanic cloud and the glow of fire from Vesuvius's throat. The ash fell thicker now, hot and suffocating. People stumbled blindly, clutching one another, their faces gray with dust. In one street, a mother knelt beside her child, trying to wake him. In another, a man prayed aloud, his voice shaking, "Mercy, O Jupiter, mercy!" And still, the mountain roared. By evening, roofs collapsed in waves. The basilica crumbled. Statues of marble split apart under the heat. In the amphitheater, the empty seats filled with ash. Dogs howled until their voices vanished. The city of Pompeii, once vibrant with color and sound, was now a shadow under a black sky. And then came the strangest thing of all, silence. For a few moments, the ground stopped shaking. People thought, maybe it was over. They crawled from cellars and doorways, dazed, coughing. Some tried to dig through the ash, to reach neighbors or find the roads. But above them, the dark pillar over Vesuvius swelled once more, wider, brighter, angrier. A red glow pulsed within it, as if the heart of the mountain itself was beating. The day had turned to night, the air to poison, and the gods had not finished yet. When the sky opened again, it did not rain stones. It rained fire. The sky had turned to fire. From Vesuvius came a sound like the tearing of the earth itself, followed by a surge of molten ash that tore down the mountain at impossible speed. It wasn't lava. It was death in the form of heat and air. The first pyroclastic surge struck the northern slopes, swallowing farms and vineyards in seconds. People running through the fields vanished where they stood, their outlines burned into the ground. In Pompeii, a hot wind rolled through the streets, carrying sparks and choking fumes. The air itself seemed to scream. In the temple of Isis, a handful of priests huddled around a statue, chanting prayers to calm the trembling ground. Their voices were drowned out as the roof caved in, and the temple disappeared in a flash of light and dust. In the house of the Vetii, a young servant clutched a silver cup, his master's treasure, as he hid beneath an archway. The cup melted in his hands before the wall itself gave way. From the harbor, where some still hoped to escape, came cries of despair. The sea, which had retreated hours earlier, now rushed back in violent waves, dragging boats into chaos. The sky above the bay glowed orange, reflecting the burning mountain. The streets were now rivers of ash. People stumbled through it waist-deep, blinded, choking, clinging to anything that still stood. They called for family, for neighbors, for gods who no longer answered. And then, without warning, the second surge hit. It came like a storm of ghosts, a cloud of fire and gas, rolling silently until it was upon them. In an instant, the air turned to flame. Those still in the open didn't even have time to scream. Those in houses gasped once and never again. The heat reached 500 degrees in moments. Flesh, clothing, and wood were gone before they fell. Walls glowed red, then collapsed, sealing the city in a tomb of stone and ash. By dawn, the once thriving Pompeii was gone, silent beneath 20 feet of gray. Vesuvius still smoked, its summit torn open like a wound. Across the bay in Misenum, Pliny the Younger, a Roman scholar, watched in awe as the black column rose higher, blocking the sun for miles. He would later write that it looked like a pine tree, tall and still at its root, spreading wide at the top. He didn't yet know that beneath that tree, an entire city had vanished. For 2 days, the mountain burned. The ash spread as far as Egypt, darkening skies and chilling the air. When it finally ended, the world moved on. The survivors rebuilt, the empire continued, and Pompeii became a name whispered in warning, the city that angered the gods. But beneath that hardened ash, something extraordinary had happened. Houses, temples, even the bodies of the dead had been sealed in perfect detail. Pots still sat on stoves. Dogs lay curled in corners. A couple, frozen in an embrace, remained together as stone. For nearly 17 centuries, Pompeii slept, undisturbed, untouched, forgotten. Farmers plowed over it, unaware that beneath their feet lay streets and stories waiting to be unearthed. Then, in 1748, a group of diggers struck something strange, a wall covered in frescoes, colors still bright after thousands of years. The lost city had been found. As archaeologists brushed away the ash, they uncovered rooms filled with mosaics, graffiti, jewelry, and people, their final moments captured forever. A man shielding his wife, a child clutching his mother's hand, a woman collapsed beside a doorway she never reached. Pompeii had become a city of ghosts, each one whispering a fragment of the day the sky fell. The tragedy of Pompeii is not just in its destruction, but in its preservation, a snapshot of ordinary lives interrupted in an instant. The laughter, the marketplaces, the prayers, the hope, all frozen beneath the weight of fire. Today, as visitors walk its silent streets, the air feels different. Every stone, every fresco, every cast of ash carries the same unspoken truth, that on one ordinary morning, under a golden sun, life went on, until it didn't. And when the sky fell, Pompeii remembered everything. If you enjoyed this story, please like, share, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Thank you.